Hey, what's going on guys? And today I want to bring you a Toxic Rain build guide. So Toxic Rain is a build that I have been playing for the past few leagues, but this league I am not gonna be playing it. And that's mostly because I have been playing it so many times in a row, I finally want to play something different. And I still believe Toxic Rain is one of the best builds you can start your league with. Unfortunately, the biggest change for Toxic Rain this league is the fact that we are losing 17% damage at gem level 20, but we are gaining some of that damage back from buffs to bows and the quivers. So it shouldn't be that much different from the previous league. So first of all, let me show you the gameplay. So I'm gonna do tier 16 beach, and this is on a budget I would say of like few exalts. So I'm using just a crafted bow, just a random quiver with attack speed, tabula, a ring with despair, and gloves with dot multi. So for clear on this build I am using 6-ring caustic arrow, and for single target I am using Toxic Rain, and this is Caustic Arrow with Arrow Nova. But if you don't want to use Caustic Arrow, you can still use Toxic Rain for clear. So right now I am using Toxic Rain, and as you can see it is still doing a pretty good job with clearing. You can't really see the monsters when they are dying, because that's pretty much the gameplay of Toxic Rain. This is damage over time build, so you just shoot once and you just hope that monsters behind you die to damage over time. And now let me show you a boss. So for single target I'm placing ballistas, and then I am shooting with my Toxic Rain. So single target damage is not the craziest, but it gets the job done. And that's it. So now let's look at the PoB. So first let's look at the leveling. So it didn't really change that much from previous league. Even the nerf does not affect leveling at all, because it only reduces the damage of Toxic Rain at the higher gem levels. So at level between 1 and probably up to 10, 15, it's pretty much the same. The only difference is that now the masteries have been removed, so I would no longer take pretty much any bow mastery, because the phasing one and increased damage when you have a totem has been removed. So the only decent one is increased AoE while wielding a bow, but it's not that big of a deal, so I would just skip it. And because there isn't that many changes to leveling, I would recommend watching my previous leveling guide, so how to level up as a Toxic Rain raider, because it is pretty much up to date and it's gonna show you in details how to level up as this build. And it's using pretty much the same PoB. Again, the only difference is it does use the bow masteries, and now I would not do that. So for the ascendancy for leveling, I would go as a raider, because you get free onslaught for additional movement speed. And here in PoB you can check all of the tree progression, and in terms of the gems you can look at the notes. Here are all of the gems you should take in order, and you can also look at the gems in here. The only thing that you might want to change is if you are using ballistas or mines as a Toxic Rain. Ballistas should be a bit less damage than mines, but it's gonna be more survivability, because you can just place your ballista and move around, and with mines you have to stand in place and constantly place your mines. But the good thing about this build is that we can constantly level up as a Toxic Rain, so there is not that much swapping. Again, the only difference is early on you're gonna use mines or ballistas, and eventually you're gonna swap out of the mines. So that's pretty much it in terms of leveling. Again, I do recommend watching my previous guide for in-depth leveling. So now let's look at the endgame. So in the endgame you have 3 different versions. You can play as a Raider, Pathfinder or Deadeye. Although I would not really recommend playing as a Deadeye because it lacks survivability. The Raider will give you spell suppression and 50% chance to avoid ailments, which is decent survivability, and the Pathfinder will give you flask effectiveness and recovery, so that helps with not dying, and Deadeye doesn't really do anything for your defense. So again, I did include 3 different versions of the 3, but I would highly recommend playing either as a Raider or playing as a Raider up to level around 80-90 and then swapping to Pathfinder. And I personally prefer playing Pathfinder during the endgame because it is better for bossing in my opinion, because you have better uptime on life and mana flasks, and also you can personalize it a bit more thanks to the flask effectiveness, and you can choose whatever you want to have from your flask, so either more damage or more defense. Also, there are 2 versions of the ascendancies with clusters, so one with Raider, one with Pathfinder, and there is a version with 1 cluster and version with 2 clusters. So first, cluster jewel should be the large one, chaos damage, increased chaos damage with Touch of Cruelty, Unholy Grace and Wicked Pull. The most important one, I believe, is Wicked Pull, and just if you can have 3 of them, just take that one or that one and one of the other 2, so either Touch of Cruelty or Unholy Grace. For the medium ones, the most important one is Wicked Pull. You should have that on every single medium cluster jewel. And the second one, I would recommend to take Flow of Life, just for some additional damage and life. But you can also go for some other ones. Let me show you all of the possibilities. Where is the medium one? Here it is. So you can go for Brush with Death. I would recommend having 1 of them because it gives you some nice recovery, 1% life on kill. And another decent one is Eternal Suffering. Also, you can have only 1 of them, which will give you better uptime on your Wither stacks. So it will help you maintain them up to 6 Withered debuff stacks on the enemy. And the last one that I think is a nice one is the where is it? Student of Decay. This one will give you some additional chaos resistances. So if you care about chaos res, you can take this one. Otherwise, just take a Flow of Life. So that's it when it comes to the cluster jewels. And the second one, you should take it here, and it's gonna be the same setup. So the same medium and the same large ones. And for the small ones, you should take chaos damage over time multi and increased maximum life. If you can afford 3 stat jewels, the third one would be either attack speed or attack speed when you wield a bow. Okay, now let's look at the items. So when you enter map, you should just have Quill Rain and Tabula Rasa. This is gonna be a good setup for start. Every other item should just be some life and resist. It doesn't matter that much. And obviously you want to have Enduring Mana Flask for your mana recovery, and other ones do not matter that much. But I would recommend having Jade and Steve Knight for increased evasion, increased attack speed. At your life flask you can have bleed immunity, but you can also get that from the Flask Mastery. So instead of Flask Effect, you can have remove a random non-elemental element when you use a life flask. So that would also remove bleed. So that would be the beginning setup. Also now we have a new base. So on a broadhead arrow quiver, now we will have attack speed. So previously there was no good quiver base for toxic rain. Now we have this one, so you should always use broadhead quiver. Now when you're gonna progress with this build, you should eventually get yourself a 6-link bow with 1.5 attack speed, and you can craft that bow with fossils, and I'm gonna show you the process of crafting a bow in a second. For your chest, when you have your 6-link bow, then you can start using a carcass jack instead of tabula, and for the boots you can use a series step for increased spell suppression. But if you can get spell suppression somewhere else, or either on other items or on the tree, you can remove it and just equip any normal boots. For your rings, it actually might be hard to get the Despair on hit now, because influence items are gonna be harder to get, so you might wait with that upgrade for later. And early on you can craft your rings using the essence to get the damage over time multiplier, and the essence you use for that craft is the essence of Delirium. For the belt, again, just life resistances. For the gloves, you can go for chaos damage over time multiplier, but again, getting hunter items might be a bit harder right now. And for the helmet, just you care about Toxic Rain enchant. As a Pathfinder, it's pretty much the same. The only difference would be going for Quartz Flask for additional spell suppression, and that's pretty much it. Now let's look at the bows. So the first version of the bow that you will craft is this one. So this one you would craft with fossils. So now let me show you how you craft it. So you would take any bow that has at least 1.45 attack speed, preferably 1.5. So that would be either short bow, grove bow, or thicket bow, with item level at least 64. But that might be hard to get early on in the league, so you might have to settle for something like Highborn bow, or where is it? The Imperial bow, because there is a divination card for Imperial bow, so it will be much easier to acquire 6-link Imperial bow. So let's start with that one, and again you will want item level at least 64. And then you go to fossils and you use corroded, jagged, and metallic, and I believe on average it's 1 in 7 to hit, +2 to level of socketed bow gems, and +1 to socketed gems. So let's count. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got a little bit unlucky here, but I actually got attack speed, which is a decent mod. But now I have 3 suffixes and I want to craft suffix on a bow, so you have to either just annul it at that point, and hopefully you're not gonna remove any of these socketed gems. So now I got unlucky and I would remove that, so I would have to recraft it with fossils. But if you want to be safe and not remove any of these 2 mods, you can use a beast, which is remove a suffix and add a prefix. This way you are guaranteed to remove one of the suffixes. And one of them is gone, and now you can craft on the bench. You would normally craft attack speed, but because I just rolled attack speed, I would roll the chaos damage over time multiplier. And crafting attack speed is actually pretty expensive, because attack speed is 1 exalt, so you might actually still want to just craft chaos damage over time multi. So that would be your starting bow. Again, attack speed, I just got lucky here. You don't really care about not having it. So now let's look at the more expensive version of the bow. And this bow will cost you probably between 10 and 15 exalts to craft, but when you get it, you are gonna use it pretty much until the end of playing this build. So the way you craft it is you want to have at least item level 78 bow, and now you really want to focus on having 1.5 attack speed, so you would get either short, growth or thicket bow, and again item level 78 plus, and it would be a 6 link. And first thing you're gonna do is you wanna just roll with alteration until you hit tier 1 attack speed. So now let me just pick it right here. So you would have a bow like this. Obviously you might be unlucky and you might have some kind of random prefix like a mana leech, so at that point you would have to preferably imprint it and then annul it. So in case you are gonna remove your attack speed, you can imprint it back, then use imprint again, and now I have just attack speed. If you can't afford imprint beast, you can obviously just keep rerolling with alterations if you fail your annul. And now you will have to repeat the same process again, because now you want to have a rare bow with just attack speed. So to do that you would again imprint, then use a regal and annul. And if you have something like this, that's perfect, but if it would fail and remove the attack speed and keep the other one, you would just imprint it back. So that's the base you hope to have, and at that point it's very deterministic. You just have to burn through few exalts. So first thing you would craft is on the suffix, you would craft can have 3 additional modifiers, which is 2 exalts, and cannot roll attack modifiers, which is 1 exalt. So that's 3 exalts on these 2 crafts, and then you would use 1 exalt, and it is guaranteed to hit +1 to socketed gems. So just to show you, I can hit it multiple times and it's always gonna be +1 to socketed gems, and that's another exalt, so that's 4 exalts. And at that point you would use a hunter exalts, and we don't know how expensive hunter exalts are gonna be, but I would expect them to be between 2 and maybe 4 exalts. So let's say it's 2 exalts, so at that point that would be 6 exalts if I'm not mistaken. So you use it and you are guaranteed to get increased chaos damage over time, but the tier is random. So here I got unfortunate, unlucky, and I got the lowest one, which is tier 4. But the good thing about this mod is that it already gives you a pretty nice amount of damage over time, even as a tier 4, so you don't really care about getting higher tiers. So just to show you, even tier 2 is only 87, so it's like 20% higher. Now for the last step, you want to go to your crafting bench again and remove the crafted modifiers, and you will have to recraft can have 3 crafted modifiers, which is another 2 exalts, so that would be I believe 8 exalts, and then you craft the chaos damage over time multiplier and the prefix level of socketed support gems, which is also I believe 2 exalts. So because of all of the crafted mods, the cost of this bow is between 10 and 15 exalts, depending on how lucky you are with crafting attack speed and how much you will spend on the base and price of the hunter orb. So that would be your endgame bow. And now the last part is the skill gems. So again, you can look at the leveling gems over here, but at the end game you have 3 options. You can either go for just using a Toxic Rain with Mirage Archer, Vicious Projectile, Efficacy, and Conk Effect and Void Manipulation. Eventually you can swap out either Conk Effect or Void Manipulation for Empower, or you can use second 6-link, which would be Caustic Arrow for clear with Arrow Nova. And if you are gonna do that, then it's up to you which gem is gonna use Mirage Archer, because only one of them can do that. So you can either have Mirage Archer with Caustic Arrow for better clear, or Mirage Archer on Toxic Rain for better single target. On top of that, you can also use the Ballista. So instead of Caustic Arrow, if your second 6-link is gonna be Toxic Rain Ballista with Withering Touch and Attack Speed Focus Ballista, this way you're gonna have a much higher single target, because these ballistas are gonna stack Wither stacks extremely fast. So this way you're gonna have much better single target. And if you're gonna do that, then it is worth it to include faster attacks into your 6-link. So that would be without Conk Effect, Void Manipulation, you would use faster attacks and Empower with the Ballista, and that would be the highest single target. But if you care mostly about the clear, then again you would go for something like this. You would use 6-link Caustic Arrow, and then you can still use 4-link Ballista just to have additional single target when you are killing map bosses. For your auras, you're gonna use Malevolence, Skitterbots, and Grace. You should be able to fit that if you're gonna use Enlighten, and on the tree you're gonna have Reduce Mana Reservation here and here for the Grace. For movement speed, you're gonna use Dash and Blink Arrow. You can replace Dash with Flame Dash, and second wind, it is up to you if you want to have additional charge or not. Despair you can cast on your own until you get Despair on your ring, and Steel Skin you can use on your left click to just automatically cast it from time to time. And Blood Rage, it's nice for generating the frenzy charges and for some additional attack speed. Before I finish, I want to mention two last things you can go for. And first one is going for Elegant Hubris. So in this spot you would equip Elegant Hubris with Caspiro mode. The number of coins doesn't matter too much, you only care about the Caspiro. And if you do that, you are gonna remove all of these nodes, but you will be able to use Supreme Ostentation, which gives you ignore attribute requirements, and this is extremely helpful during the League Start scenario, because you no longer need any attributes on your gear, which help you with gearing a lot. Unfortunately, you will not be able to take these points, and this one is also gonna be disabled. But if you are lucky with the roll of the coins, this can also give you something useful like attack speed or resistances. So this is a nice optional thing to go for if you want to ignore your attributes. Also, the downside is gain no bonuses from attributes, so that will be no evasion. And you don't really care about that because you are most likely gonna be using Mage Band anyway, which removes evasion from your dexterity anyway, and you're still gonna get the spell suppression from dexterity with Mage Band, even if you are using Supreme Ostentation. So downside is completely removed. And the second thing is going for the Xibaqua. So again, the same spot, and this actually does not remove, actually no, it also removes the modifiers and replaces them with the other ones, but it's a different mod pool. And this time you would go for Xibaqua, so you would get Divine Flesh, so you would get +2 chaos resistances, and your elemental damage is gonna be taken as chaos, so that's a bit better for your defense. You're gonna hopefully go for 90% chaos resistances, which you can go for thanks to Born of Chaos, small cluster jewels, and reach that 90%, then you're gonna take much less elemental damage, but you're gonna need more points and you're gonna waste 1 jewel, so your single target should be worse, and you also are probably gonna have a little bit less life, but your elemental damage taken is gonna be much lower. And if you want to gamble for a really nice Glorious Vanity, you can get one that is gonna give you +1 maximum chaos resistance over here. So that's going to be it. Again, you can watch my guide from previous league for the leveling. This is a more in-depth guide, but it is only a little bit outdated, and I did explain the differences in this video. And also, if you want more in-depth guide for the endgame, again, there is a video for that from the previous league. It is almost an hour long. And again, the differences from the previous league to this league I did explain in this video, so you should be up to date. So thanks for watching and see you next time.